It's sometime in early March 2010, and today on the Recon Report, we'll take a look at part of the product line for Warmachine Mark II. I'm Jason, the creator of the Army Showcase, and the Recon Report is a YouTube series presented by TabletopBattlefield.com. In the next few minutes, we'll take a look at the rulebook, some stat cards, and a new figure for Warmachine Mark II. Now, Warmachine Mark II is the second edition of Privateer Press's flagship game. There are two goals to this update. One was to streamline the rules, and the second was to shift the balance of power back in favor of the iconic warjacks of the series. Now, of course, we've got new rules, new stats, and as a result, new tactics and new products to take a look at. First up is the Warmachine Mark II Prime Rulebook, clocking in at $30 for the softcover edition. It's 255 beautiful full-color pages. And kicking it all off is a brand new revised page 5. If you're not familiar with Warmachine, page 5 is kind of like the gameplay etiquette of Warmachine. From there, it goes into a cool little short story, followed by the history of the Iron Kingdoms, and then obviously dives into the core rules with some different scenarios you can play to kind of mix up gameplay a little bit. Then we break down into the units section. The usual units you'll expect in here are the same ones that appeared in both Prime and Prime Remix. However, in here we do have one or two extra characters, or I think in this case warjacks, per faction to represent some of the new models that are available. And in addition to having background information on every single unit or character in this book, it's also got a short background of the faction itself. And it looks like we've got Signar, Menoth, Cawdor, and Crix in here, as well as mercenaries. And when we get to the very last part here is where we get to the hobby section. You've got lots of beautiful full-color paintings of the various figures, as well as instructions on how to paint your figures and build terrain. And it looks like even a little bit of kind of campaign information here, but I'm not sure how deep that goes into campaigning. So like I said, that's $30 for the Warmachine Mark II rulebook. It's absolutely beautiful. The artwork in here is just absolutely fantastic, especially some of the new stuff showing the warcasters with like arcane abilities going all around them. So let's put that down and move on to the stat cards. Next up are the 2010 stat card decks. Each deck clocks in around 90 cards depending on what faction you get. And what you're going to find is pretty much all the stat cards for all the units. These are obviously Mark II stat cards. For all the units that have been released up to about January 1st, 2010. Inside then, of course, you've got one set of cards for each of your warcasters. You have several warjacks, about 2 to 4 depending on which warjack it is. Then you've got one card for all the solos, units, unit attachments, and things like that as well. So chances are, if you've been playing Warmachine for a long time, you're going to need to pick this thing up because obviously it's got all the updated stats and you probably have a whole bunch of Mark I stat cards laying around. If you're a new player, you only have to really go ahead and pick this up if you're still buying, I'm going to say, old product that still has the Mark I stat cards in them. I'm pretty sure from this point on, you can expect to find only Mark II stat cards in the various products, but in the offbeat chance you do end up with a box that has a Mark I stat card in it, track down the faction deck, that's where you're going to find them, or you can buy individual cards online at Privateer Press's website. Now, in addition to the actual stat cards, you get one neat little bonus here, which is a little bonus card that pretty much has all the different symbols kind of explaining what the different special abilities are, or just identifying what the special abilities are that you'll find on the cards. Each of the major decks clocks in around $18 to $19 depending on where you buy them. And just as one last little side note, I believe there is different artwork on the front for, it's just like several different artworks for each of the factions. I believe that all the decks are the same though, regardless of what artwork appears in the front. Now last up is the plastic heavy warjack kit for Signar. Now each of the 4 original factions has one of these kits, and how it works is inside you're going to find one body, as well as enough arms and other little attachments to build one of 3 models. 2 of the models are going to be the classic warjacks you're probably familiar with, like for example for Signar you've got the Defender as well as the Ironclad, and the third one is a brand new model. In this case, Signar gets something called the Cyclone, which is a giant heavy warjack with 2 Metal Storm Gatling guns on its arms. How awesome does that sound? If we rip this guy open, inside of course you've got a little plastic carrying tray. And then you've got a bunch of little bags here that contain all the little pieces you need to build one of the 3 warjacks. And of course, you choose which one you build, so it's not like it's some weird random thing. At the bottom of the plastic tray, you're going to find the 3 stat cards, or the 3 possible variations you can build. Now let's talk about price for a minute. These figures come in at $35. Now that's really expensive considering that you can get, say, a Defender or ironclad metal figure still for $25. They're still available to retailers, and they're even a little bit cheaper if you track them down on eBay. So here's a free tip for you. Learn how to magnetize your figures. What this means is instead of actually gluing the pieces together, glue little magnets onto the end of the pieces and stick them together like that, so you can easily kind of pull off the various arms and weapons and stick the other arms and weapons on and place them, so you basically have the ability to use all 3 of the different variations. Well, there you go. That's a quick look at some of the products that are available for Warmachine Mark II. Now, of course, each of the factions either have an army book or one's going to be coming out for them very soon. Unfortunately, my local game store was out of the Signar one, so I couldn't pick that one up. But once again, I'm Jason. For more information on the world of miniature wargaming or to submit your own content, check out the Army Showcase and Tabletop Battlefield podcast over at www.tabletopbattlefield.com. Thanks for watching, and remember, play like you've got a pair or put down the metal and go play with something made of plastic. Wait a minute. Screw it. Have a good night.